Good. Okay. Well, I'm going to do two things here to get started. First of all, I just put a link into the chat for the website I'm going to share with you. And I'm calling this my shameless self-promotion page. It's my projects page. So I'll use that as a way of doing introduction. The Reader's Digest is I'm a retired geoscience instructor from PCC. I'm part-time at Portland State. I do a lot of climate education and advocacy work. Helena, you didn't put me to sleep at all because I'm also on a legislative advocacy team with American Geophysical Union. So I very much appreciate it. The nice thumbnail you gave in terms of what's happening. Thank you. In any case there, the other reason I brought up this page and gave you a link to it is because the project I want to talk about is one that's listed down here as Pathways 2050. And so what I'll do is just call that up. Okay. First of all, everybody seen my screen okay?
Yes.
Perfect. So in any case here, this is, I should preface something here. In addition to being actually a glacial geologist by background, I also was raised with model railroads. And I had a situation where my mother had just died in 2023. I was looking for a distraction, and I found a bunch of model railroading stuff, equipment down in the basement, and thought, well, you know what? Maybe I should try to see if I could build a traveling exhibit that would characterize what a neighborhood like the one that I live in, Northeast Portland, might look like in the year 2050 if we decided to take the IPCC seriously in terms of being carbon neutral by 2050. And so what you see right down here, let me see if I can do this. Come on, come on. Okay, I was hoping to enlarge, but it doesn't seem to work too well. But in any case there, what you're taking a look at here is a model of it's I would say loosely a northeast Portland. I live in actually up about if any of you know where Jim and Patty's is over on Fremont and 50th, I live roughly around there. But I've ended up taking from a number of other neighborhoods in Southeast, several buildings. So the first picture I want to show you here, first set of pictures I want to show you here, is the model in action. It's roughly about 4 by 6 feet, all built to what model railroaders would call N scale. I used to work doing science for a couple of different science museums, and so it has the obligatory copy behind it. And what you're looking at right here, first of all, can everybody see me waving around the red arrow? Perfect.
Yes.
Okay, so this is at Park Roads Middle School. Now, I've exhibited this probably about half a dozen different times over the past couple of years. I built it in 2024 in the first of the year. And one of the things that quickly discovered doing this is middle school kids love models. And it always attracted a lot of attention. So here we are again looking at the model set up at Park Roads Middle School. Kids wandering around. They've all got their assignment as far as sort of a scavenger hunt, if you will. And so they're engaged in that. And there's my wife there. She tends to help me a lot. She's actually hiding off here in the background. the so there we go. One of the couple things I want to point out again, why I gave you the link for my projects page, which will link you over to this page, is that there's a number of resources on here. First of all, this is a good size model, so it's a little bit difficult sometimes to take into to take every place. So there's a couple of things I've done to substitute for that. First of all, there's a poster. There's kind of a poster summary of it that sometimes display. I have a tour guide down here that I'm in the process of writing. So there's a draft there that gets into all the gory detail. It gives you it gives you some background in terms of the general characteristics of the neighborhood and what has been adapted from these. Just about every building that's in this model exists. Some of them are already net zero in terms of energy. There's actually one that's net zero in terms of both energy and water. They got a 5,000 gallon cistern buried in the front yard. Some of them are legacy buildings. Any of you that are familiar with Beaumont Market and Beaumont Village, there's no way that's net zero. That was built in the 1930s. They haven't really adapted to it. But hey, if dairy villages in Germany can take buildings built in the 13th century and bring them up to passive house standards, we can certainly do that with something like Beaumont Village. One of the things I'm going to have you take a look at here is what this is right here. I do a lot of panoramic photography and buildings, Google Street View like situations. And so this is part of the model here. And actually, I'm going to open up the map here, which this is, there's an under construction sign as you enter into this model. And so there are places where you're going to bump into it and doesn't tell you much. It says light rail station. There are other places that give you a little bit more detail. And then there are other places that'll give you a lot more detail. But here we're looking at the south end of the model. There's actually, no, I'm sorry, the north end of the model. And so there's a light rail system here that's adjacent to, actually, I think I can probably move here a little bit over to number 2. Yeah, it's much better. So there's our light rail station here, adjacent to the transit center. In some respects, it was kind of interesting. One climate fair I brought this model to, there was I think he was probably an 8th grader that walked by and he was sort of in a clique with his friends. And he says, that looks like 2025. And yeah, there is a lot of it that looks like 2025, because the idea here is how could we go about achieving a carbon neutral, environmentally sustainable neighborhood without completely reinventing the wheel. I think he was looking for flying cars and stuff like that. So no flying cars there, but so the streets look pretty normal, except for the fact that here's our separated bike highway. So I borrowed something from Copenhagen. Also, one other little trick here, I move here a little bit. There we go. And so that one right there. Oh, and like I say, I borrowed from a lot of different existing buildings. Here we go. This, some of you might recognize the Mazama Clubhouse, which is actually net zero now. And that's no means feat, because that was built in the 1930s, I believe, as a Masonic temple. And they had a massive, basically, solar farm on the roof. Here we go. This is, again, Beaumont Village. 1/4 of the Hollywood Library. I've adapted a lot of these. I put a sod roof onto it. And right over here, a good-sized solar array, and taken the street between them as a pedestrian mall. Um, so there's one of the scavenger questions that kids get asked is um, how do people in this neighborhood get around? And so we've got that. Um, the Another little spot over here that I'm intimately familiar with because they're actually right next door to where Portland Bird Alliance is moving their wildlife hospital right on 82nd across the street from McDaniels High School. And this is Dharma Rain Zen Center. They've been there since 2012. And what's unique about that particular installation is not only what they're doing in terms of urban agriculture and energy efficient building and utilizing on-site solar, but it's also the fact that they're built on the cap for a construction landfill. Place that was a quarry in the first part of the last century and what eventually became a landfill for a lot of the construction debris from the development of the I-205. So there we go. There is a certain amount of poetic license I've taken in all of this. Number one is the fact that none of these buildings have been moved around. And I haven't taken all the buildings by any stretch of the imagination. Nope, wait a minute. Where'd it go here? Oh, this was totally by accident. Anyway, that one's my house. We did a little bit extra. And actually, this is the neighbor who happens to be the HR manager, one of the HR managers for Energy Trust. And this is another one of our neighbors. And right over here is someone from a retired satellite engineer from the Bay Area, who he and his wife, when they moved up, bought a place where the house had burned down and built a house that is, geez, I'm trying to remember. They got about almost 30 kilowatts of solar on it. They are definitely net zero, triple pane windows, etc. One of the other things I appreciate you doing the land acknowledgement, because the land acknowledgement in this model is kind of twofold. First of all, over here, Methodist Church. I think I can, actually pulls up a bit more information. A Methodist church. It was originally Wilshire United Methodist. It's now Great Spirit United Methodist. And they have been talking with Interfaith Solar about the idea of putting onto their sanctuary roof a good sized bank of photovoltaics, getting some battery storage, and setting themselves up as a climate resilience shelter. So this could be a place in the event of power outages that folks could go. Turn around a bit here. This building doesn't exist, but it is something that I patterned around the plank houses, the Chinook plank houses. And in this variation, it actually has a groundwater heat pump system and a considerable amount of solar. Okay, anyway, there's a lot more I can say about this. However, what I'd encourage you to do is essentially just spend a little bit of time exploring the model with the web page. What I want to do here to wrap up is I want to stop sharing the screen and make everybody seasick for just a minute by moving my camera around. And let's see, I'm going to change my view here a little bit. So I'm going gallery, because that way I've got a better view of that. Some of you might recognize that if you're from Northeast Portland as Beaumont Middle School. And I show you that for a couple of reasons. First of all, I'm a grandparent volunteer working with a science teacher at Beaumont Middle School. My grandson is an 8th grader there. And in particular, I'm actually working through the Eco School Network to help this teacher with a with their I guess it would you would be called a school green team. And they recently applied for and got a grant through PCEF, Portland Clean Energy Fund, to do a number of activities. And one of the activities happens to be having the climate fair at the at Beaumont. And at that time, I'm bringing the model. One of the things that you might have noticed looking at the model is it's not finished, and that was on purpose. I built the model so it looks like it represents the current state of the school. What the students will be doing will be putting stickies on the model, little post-its, saying, this is how we think our school should be modified to make it more climate friendly. Um, and as a matter of fact, I'm also working, there's 4 schools that the climate fair will be at this year. And I'm working with several students from Portland State in what's called one of the university studies capstone courses. I'm working with 3 students who will be developing posters. I think Lynn suggested, hey, could we make models of all the schools and do this? And I thought, it took me 3 months to build the big model. It took me probably about 3 weeks to build this model. A little bit of a stretch there. In any case, the students I'm working with are developing posters, big posters using air photos in lieu of the models. Maybe we'll get to the point of building models for all the schools, but right now, I will also say one other spin-off of this is that I've been off and on in a conversation with a teacher from Gray Middle School um, about science teacher there about building a model, having the students build a model of their school. And that was my intention with building the original model, was to plant a seed for other people to do the same thing, with the idea that it's one thing to talk about this is what we want. It's another thing to build a model that shows it. And it's probably as close as you can get to actually doing it. And getting so the idea was never that I was going to continue building models like this for all kinds of neighborhoods, but rather encourage students and groups to community groups to build their own models to express where they want to go. I will be teaching a course next week, not next week, next term at Portland State, that is called Introduction to Community. I just got offered this course a couple of weeks ago, and the focus is some of the stages that would be necessary to build a model like this. Because one thing you'll notice if you take a look at the tour guide, is the tour guide really gets into a lot of. I tried in the tour guide to get into a lot of the detail in terms of not only what the current state, what the model is showing in terms of what it would look like in 2050, but what's the current state of this neighborhood, the neighborhood that's being represented. Where does it get its resources from? What's the natural hazards it deals with? What's its demographics, etc. Try to get into a lot of detail there. And so hopefully I'll be able to get the students next term in this sophomore inquiry class into some of the same detail. Anyway, I don't know if I should overshot my 20 minutes or not, but I think that's probably enough to say for right now.
Thank you. Wonderful.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Frank.
It's really beautiful and like inspiring.
Um,
Thanks, Frank. That was really great. Wow. Yeah, that's
Are-
amazing. What a great way to visualize what things could be.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, it is like I say, it was one of those cockamamie ideas that I took on because of the fact that I had time on my hands. I was recovering from a surgery, and I needed to do something that was other than moping around the house feeling bad.
I'll, so a little blue sky thinking here, totally impractical because, as you say, this takes a lot of work. But I can imagine a scenario where you had a model showing how things looked 20 years ago, how they look now, and then 20 years from now. So that, because like your students were pointing out, a lot of these things look like 2025 because we have made progress towards these goals in a lot of ways that they may not be even aware of. And so just showing that this is a continuum, that it's not like snap and you're in the new future. It's here's how we've come, how far we've come, here's where we're going.
Yeah.
And the other sort of blue sky thought is this is the sort of thing you would like to see on a regular exhibit at someplace like OMSI.
Yeah, yeah. And like I say, I used to work at OMSI, and I have been talking with them a little bit about the idea of doing that. They would actually be a great resource for helping kids
Yes.
be able to build models. And I've found a
Yes.
number of architects that we actually had our home and a home show and a Solar Oregon home show a couple of years ago. And there were some folks who came through who were architects who were just drooling over the possibilities with this sort of thing. And I think a number of them were volunteering to be resources for kids.
Great. That would be awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you for showing us.
Yeah,
And
you're welcome.
I will definitely like go through your website and click on the question marks.
Yeah. A lot of them are incomplete, but and there are a couple of places where you can actually click in and see the copy that would be available to the students. And if you really want to get bored, you can read through the tour guide.
And there's a question in the chat from Rolf. Is there a list of different ideas that neighborhoods are using to improve themselves? Do they include things like tiny forests?
Is there a list in the project? Yeah, the project is kind of kind of a mash that the model itself is a mashup of places that already are doing what they need to be doing in a 2050 situation and places that could be.
So the ideas are actually in the model. It's not like
it's I didn't want to do something that was I didn't want to do something that was a fiction.
Yeah.
I wanted to do something that just took what we have now and pushed it further forward.
Rolf, could you say something more about what a tiny forest is? Because I get the general concept from the name, but I suspect it means something more specific than what I'm thinking.
Well, it's a kind of forest derived out of Japan in the 1970s, in which you plant native local plants very densely on a soil that's amended if it needs to be, and then they grow faster because of the closeness and the amendments and the fact that they are native. So they will grow radically faster than conventional tree in the park. And and you plant there from typically the size of we're talking about a parking space in a parking lot is a small one. I have two of these in my yard. So I have one of those, a 6 by 10 with 20 plants. And we have a 600 square foot plot with about 180 plants, all local natives. There's ratios and species, and there's a lot of thinking goes into it. There's mostly a lot of trees planted close, and the key to that is after 3 years, they shade the soil, and therefore no more weeds will grow, and you won't get more blackberries. And so, so you want to have, but you have all 4 layers of a climax forest planted on the same day, so they all grow together. Instead of going 20 years for this and 30 years for that, it's today we do it all. And therefore, in 10 to 20 years, you have a climax like forest. You won't get the 6 foot trunk or anything like that, but you'll have the structure of a climax forest in a much shorter period of time. And they don't need to be watered, and they're resistant to bugs and all the native plant stuff. And so we've got 2 of them in our yard. I was blessed with a spare lot. Didn't want to sell it, so I planted on it. And then we were originally trying to sell it to schools to be in their schoolyards as a natural exhibit and for the health benefits of forest bathing and all of that stuff. And the schools were too busy. You know, they can't do anything new right now because they're under crisis after crisis. So we're targeting now. We maybe we'll see what happens. Grants and city council, etc., in Maywood Park may want to plant one. We're hoping they get it all together to say yes, and then we'll supervise them because we built 2. That makes me an expert, of course. Understand how shallow my expertise probably is, but it's not complicated. Just planting a tree and letting it go. Nature does it. You just have to keep it alive for 3 years, then walk away.
Thank you for the explanation.
Yeah, thank you. It's too bad it's too bad I didn't know you when I was building the model, because one of the things I did with a number of the buildings was go talk to the owners and say, do you mind if you're in this model? It's going to be out there in public. And in many cases, I was looking for situations like what you were describing to be able to include.
Well, we planted the first one 2 years ago and the last one just a year ago now. And we have on the last year's, we have some 8 to 9 foot trees already.
Oh, that's great. That's great.
12, 13 foot on the 2-year-old ones. That's a hell. They grow like crazy. It's fun.
Yeah. Wonderful.
It's really surprising. Like my first instinct was that would need a lot of added water since there's so many growing at once, but you're saying that they don't, which is amazing.
No, they shade the soil so it doesn't get cooked. And the wind doesn't hit it, sun doesn't hit it, and you have a mulch layer on it, so evaporation is minimal. And then the tree only transpires the moisture out. That creates clouds and moves down and moves water inland. If you just evaporate it into the air, it just goes away right where you're at. So you want trees to carry your water up. You don't want just brown dirt doing it, because it doesn't go very far.
Really cool. Thank you.
Wonderful. Well, I'm going to say a few words to kind of give the 30,000 foot view here on what Frank shared. The Climate Reality Climate Education Committee is part of a loose coalition managed by the nonprofit SAGE that works to do exactly what Frank's model is doing. Share with students what our future could look like as we completely transition off of fossil fuels and to a sustainable planet. And it was, this loose coalition was born about 8 years ago because of a vision of the intense need to, yes, focus on current and accurate climate science, but also, and maybe even more importantly, to give students a vision of what a fossil-free world could look like. And so we've worked on all different kinds of things over the years, but right now we focus on three areas. One is climate fairs that are all school events. So right now, we only have 4 a year, and that's due to just capacity. But each one of them is 400 to 500 students, and like in the case of Park Rose Middle School, 700 students. So they're pretty big events. And then we also have in-class offerings that showcase exhibits in different areas to students. And so right now we're working on our in-class offerings, and beginning in April, we'll be presenting our fairs. We also support eco clubs, and Bernadette, who's not here tonight, started a wonderful eco club at one of our local middle schools, and Frank is now working at Beaumont, and it's an area that we see as vitally important because our other events are sort of one-shot deals, whereas the eco club is week after week, having a chance to work with students who are already interested in climate and sustainability. So I guess I'll do just a little brief screen share too. Am I set up to do that? Helena? Let me work on this. How is that displaying?
Good.
Good.
Okay. So both in our fair offerings and in our in-classroom offerings, we work in 5 different areas to show examples of local groups that are doing exactly what Frank is doing, paving the way to the future. So we work to sponsor exhibits from buildings, urban form and transportation, consumption and waste, food and agriculture, and tree canopy and natural systems, as well as renewable energy. And you can see in some of these slides the different organizations that are exhibit with us in various fairs, and also sometimes in classroom offerings as well. And they've been so well received both by teachers and students. And kids get so excited about the opportunity to participate very directly with people who are at work right now in their communities to make a more sustainable community. And they have the opportunity to ask questions of people and organizations practicing in different areas, and just get a feel for what Portland could look like if we met our 2030 or 2050 climate goals. So we're a very lean project. It is mostly supported by volunteers. Very, very, very tiny budget for one part-time coordinator and to help with exhibits. And the nonprofit that sponsors this, which is called, by the way, the Vision 2030 Project, it was named after 10 years ago, it seemed like a long time. 2030 seemed like a long ways away. It was named for the City of Portland's Climate Action Plan 2030 goals. We wanted it to be close enough that students could actually envision themselves in that future. So we the financially that we have a few very small grants from different organizations, Susan B. Hammer and other organizations, but largely supported by the nonprofit SAGE that manages the project. And SAGE stands for Senior Advocates for Generational Equity. It's just a wonderful, wonderful intergenerational group that supports the concept of planting a seed, of elders planting the seeds for trees whose shade they will not see, but will be the condition that we leave the world in. So our biggest need is for volunteers. Each one of these events, both the classroom events, the fairs, and the eco clubs, require lots of volunteer help. So if you're interested in getting involved, it can be a little or a lot. For instance, we have 4 fair dates coming up, and I would be happy to share those with you. You get training. You're part of a team that is sharing a particular exhibit, and it's easy and it is a lot of fun because as you could see from the pictures, kids get so excited about things and are eager to participate. And we have half-day slots, we have 2-hour slots, we have all-day slots. So if that is of interest to anyone here, I will put my email in the chat, get in touch, and we would love to have you on board. I guess I can't remember if I said at the beginning, all of our events are free and open source. And so anything that we offer to the schools, there's no charge for. And we also are happy to share our ideas for exhibits and the work that we're doing with anyone who would like to replicate it. So, so thanks for that. And I'll put my email in chat, and any questions, feel free to get in touch.
Lynn, may I just mention, sorry for the weird light behind me, I'm in the kitchen. When you talked with me last week or whenever that was, I thought that was really, I thought about it more. I don't know if you want to share that, but I still am intending to talk to nursing faculty and see if some of the community health kind of things that maybe they could create something that could be a living exhibit that goes from year to year, as well as you were talking about, even people coming for 2 hours, they may have some community service hours they need to do throughout their courses. So I can put that in their online homeroom that all the RN students get. And there's a lot of interest from them. You know, they're busy people, but if they know that, oh, I could go 2 or 4 hours, maybe I could make that work. So
yeah, fantastic, Chrissy. Thanks for reminding me of that. And we're always looking for new and creative exhibits, and the area of climate and health is one that we just have not been able to address yet. And so we would love something in that area. And we are lucky enough to run across creative people like Frank that do. I mean, his exhibit hits every area that we talk about. So there's lots of room for, if you have an idea for exhibit development, probably wouldn't fit into this year's timeline, and there's room for helping us organize, for working with our core team, and there's also room for just the hands-on stuff with kids.
Thank you so much, Lynn and Frank, for sharing all that with us. It's like really a breath of fresh air. And like, as you said, seeing like the kids' faces, even in just the photos, it's really, really cool. And so much wonderful work. Yeah, Huge appreciation to you. Frank?
Just a quick request. One of the other reasons I gave folks the link to the page or the link to the website for the Project 2050 was, again, if you read the fine print, it says that the tour guide's draft edition. So if anyone feels like reading it through and getting me comments back, I would love it.
Thanks for letting us know that you are looking for that. Yeah. I'm on mute. Stephen, you're on mute.
Sorry. I'm not on the hub very much, but I'm wondering if there's a web place on the hub to share a link to Frank's work here and to his site, because this seems like something that other crime reality regions would appreciate.
Great idea. Yeah.
Like I say, I don't know where on there, so I'm hoping someone else has a little more familiarity, spends a little more time on there.
Are you interested in that, Frank?
I think it's going to be ingrained in our culture. You're on mute. Anyway, yeah, I would love it. There's actually another project in there regarding remote engagement with the UNFCCC events, and that's something that I'm working on a lot this year with a couple of different organizations to see if we can get some clusters of what we call engagement clusters going. So yeah.
Nice. Awesome. And for those of you who aren't familiar with Reality Hub is the Climate Reality Project is an international organization that spans multiple continents, and they have a site that's kind of like Slack, but not, that's called Reality Hub. And if you've joined the chapter, you may not have joined the national organization. So let me see if I can find that link. And if you haven't and you're interested in joining the national organization, when you do that, I believe you get an automatic, if you pick the Portland chapter and join the national organization, you will get an automatic invitation to Reality Hub that will give you both access to sort of like the general stuff there and also to the Portland chapter, which we haven't been using as much as we should. So let me see if I can find that. And thanks, Amanda. So it's on our website, so it should just be a moment for me to grab that link. Okay. Here is the official link to join the Climate Reality Project. Yeah, because I don't have access to add people to that list. So if people like join our newsletter list or give me their email address, I put them on our chapters list. And this is the opt-in for the Climate Reality Project if you are not on that yet. Yeah, thank you so much for joining, Drake. Really, really appreciate everybody being here, spending their Tuesday night on another Zoom call.